December 7, 1941, 1:40 p.m., Washington, D.C. The President of the United States was eating lunch when the world shifted. Outside, the winter air in Washington carried no hint of catastrophe. Inside the White House dining room, President Franklin D. Roosevelt was seated at his small table, as he often did on quiet Sundays. The meal was simple. The mood, at first, was calm. Europe was already at war, and Asia burned with conflict, but America remained officially neutral. Roosevelt had been navigating a careful path, arming Britain through Lend-Lease, pressuring Japan economically, but avoiding open war. Then the phone rang. Secretary of the Navy Frank Knox was on the line. His voice was tight, urgent. "Mr. President," he said, "it looks like the Japanese have attacked Pearl Harbor." For a moment, the words seemed unreal. Pearl Harbor? The U.S. Pacific Fleet's great anchorage in Hawaii? Negotiations with Japan were still technically ongoing. War had not been declared. An attack seemed not only shocking, but almost unthinkable. Roosevelt did not shout. He did not panic. Witnesses later described his reaction as controlled, almost cold. He asked precise questions. How many ships? How severe? Was it confirmed? The reports were still incomplete. Confusing messages were arriving from Hawaii. Bombers overhead, torpedoes in the harbor, battleships on fire.
At 7:55 a.m. Hawaii time, early afternoon in Washington, Japanese aircraft had descended on Pearl Harbor. The attack was swift and devastating. Battleships like the USS Arizona exploded in flames. Sailors scrambled to man anti-aircraft guns. The harbor became a field of smoke and oil-streaked water. But in Washington, Roosevelt saw only fragments of this chaos through hurried reports. Army Chief of Staff George C. Marshall rushed to the White House. So did aides, intelligence officers, and cabinet members. Each brought scraps of information, none complete, all alarming. Telephone lines buzzed constantly. Radio transmissions from Hawaii were broken, frantic. Roosevelt remained seated in his wheelchair, but his presence dominated the room. Those who knew him understood that behind his calm exterior, his mind was moving quickly. He had long suspected that war with Japan was possible, perhaps even likely. American oil embargoes had crippled Japan's expansion into China and Southeast Asia. Tensions were high. Yet even Roosevelt did not expect an attack on American soil without a declaration of war. That detail, no warning, angered him deeply. The weight of decision. By mid-afternoon, it was clear that this was no minor incident. It was a full-scale assault. Reports indicated heavy damage to the Pacific Fleet. Casualty numbers were still uncertain, but they would prove staggering. Roosevelt now faced a decision that would define his presidency and reshape global history.
He summoned his speechwriter, Samuel Roseman, and began drafting a message to Congress. The president dictated slowly, carefully choosing each word. He understood the gravity of the moment. This was not merely a military response, it was a message to the American people. At first, he wrote, "A date which will live in world history." Then he paused. "No," he said, "change it." The phrase became immortal, a date which will live in infamy. Roosevelt understood the power of language. World history sounded distant. Infamy carried moral weight. It transformed the attack from a strategic blow into an act of betrayal. While he worked, military briefings continued. Japan had also struck the Philippines, Guam, and other Pacific territories. This was coordinated war, not a single strike. Still, Roosevelt's composure did not crack. One aide later recalled that the president appeared grimmer than ever before, but steady.
That evening, Roosevelt addressed his cabinet. The conclusion was unanimous. The United States must declare war on Japan. On December 8, 1941, he entered the House Chamber of Congress. His wheelchair was hidden behind the lectern, as was customary, but his voice carried strength. Yesterday, December 7, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked. The speech lasted barely 7 minutes. It did not need to be longer. The American public, stunned by the news, rallied almost instantly. Isolationist debates that had divided the country for years evaporated overnight. Congress declared war on Japan with only one dissenting vote. Within days, Adolf Hitler declared war on the United States, followed by Benito Mussolini. America was now fully engaged in World War II. But on that Sunday afternoon, as Roosevelt first absorbed the news, none of that future was certain. What he understood immediately was this: neutrality was over.
Historians have often wondered what Roosevelt truly felt in those first minutes. Publicly, he projected resolve. Privately, the shock must have been profound. He had worked tirelessly to prepare America indirectly for war, expanding the Navy, strengthening industry, supporting Britain. Yet the Pacific Fleet had been caught at anchor. The cost in lives was heartbreaking. More than 2,400 Americans were killed at Pearl Harbor. Nearly 1,200 were wounded. For Roosevelt, the attack was both tragedy and turning point. Some critics later claimed he had expected or even welcomed the attack as a way to bring America into the war. But available evidence suggests he did not anticipate the precise location or timing. What he had prepared for, however, was the possibility of crisis, and when it came, he did not hesitate. Leadership in that moment required clarity, not chaos.